He thought about how he'd gotten himself into this cheeseless situation.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television. Who moved my cheese?
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel, man, it can fuck up your life. But you can tune into the show, laugh about it, and then everything is fine. Read along with us, la-da-dee-da-da, la-da-dee-da-dee, la-da-dee-da-da-da. J-Dub Collision, we got jokes and we got games about weed and jazz. And if you listen real close, you might even learn the way we ride the crab.
All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books with a special theme song from hit 1970s act Mungo Jerry. I am one of your hosts, Mungo Jerry W. Friedman.
Oh, and I am your other host, Chris Cheese Collision.
Ooh, that's clever.
Yeah, you saw that one coming.
Yeah,
probably.
I
But,
did.
You know, what are you going to do? And we are here in the summertime to do two things. Kick ass and chew cheese. No, that's not what we're doing. We're here in the summertime to do two things. We're here to carry on Cozy Mysteries Month by investigating the mystery that dominated the late 90s. Who moved my cheese?
Or, if you're in my line of work, the mystery that dominated the late 90s. Which manager left this shitty book on my desk?
It was a time for questions, the late 90s. Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, very much so.
Who moved my cheese? There's got to be at least one other that I probably would have prepared if I'd thought about this more than 30 seconds in advance.
Mambo number 9, question mark?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Do the Macarena?
Yeah, who's that girl? Oh, that was like
That was the 80s, yeah.
I'm old. But yeah, so we're talking about a book, parable, I would say, by Dr. Spencer Johnson, who it turns out is also the author of the best-selling 1 Minute Manager series, of which there are like 75 of these fucking things.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the intro copy. The 1 Minute Manager. The 1 Minute Salesperson, where the S is, of course, a $sign. The 1 Minute Mother. The 1 Minute Father. The 1 Minute Teacher. The 1 Minute Lover. 1 minute for yourself. Formerly,
wait,
1 minute for myself.
Wait, rewind. The 1 Minute Lover.
No, I made that up.
Oh, okay. I thought that was real. I was like, this does not sound like good advice.
The other thing that he apparently did was the Value Tales trademark series for children. And I have to say that, like, let's just anticipate what we're probably going to conclude. This is a terminally goofy piece of work whose central message is not actually that objectionable. So let's hear about his values. The value of believing in yourself. The value of patience, the value of kindness, the value of humor, the value of courage, curiosity, imagination, saving, sharing, honesty, understanding, fantasy, dedication. Yup, you got me, Spencer Johnson, MD. These are all values that I think are good.
So at what point do the vegetables get on a pirate ship and talk about Christianity?
I don't know, Davey.
Oh, that's Veggie Tales.
Sorry.
Okay,
sorry.
yeah. Totally mixed up. But yeah.
Those are completely different IPs.
Yeah, look, don't ruin my childhood, okay? I grew up thinking a lot about Veggie Tales. No, actually, our good friends from the Sunday School Dropouts podcast recently posted about having a get-together where a bunch of other ex-evangelicals got together and got really drunk and high and watched Veggie Tales.
Oh, my God.
Which sounds kind of amazing, and I wasn't even raised on them, so... Editor's note. Upon reflection, the post in question may have been a retweet, and I do not want to put words or joints in people's mouths, so there's your plausible deniability. Either way, they posted about it, and it made me laugh. Let's continue.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, what would be for a deeply, deeply secular kid? I guess what I would have to do is get together all the theater kids from high school that I hung out with, and we would get drunk and high and rewatch Life of Brian.
Yeah, Monty
Honestly, I think
Python.
the VeggieTales kids might have the edge on this one.
There'd be a lot less like obnoxious everybody saying the funny lines at the same time. Because I was definitely that kid who, back, in, the pre-web days of the internet, downloaded the scripts to Monty Python shows and movies, printed them out on the dot matrix paper with the daisy wheel, the little edge.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my friend and I would sit there with copies of the script, reading along with the movie when we watched it. And this was fun somehow.
It's sort of like printing out the sheet music to a Rush album and sitting down and, going through the tabs as Getty works it out.
But you're not improving any skills other than being annoying in public.
Do you think that knowing how to play a Rush song is a skill other than annoying people in public? Boom! Roasted!
Probably not, but it gets your technique up there.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe
That's
it's just good practice for like going to a screening of The Room and throwing spoons at a screen.
I got to be honest, yeah, I memorized my Monty Python the old-fashioned way by renting it every weekend and watching it 3 times to my head because I had no fucking friends.
Yeah, I did a fair share of that too. I just for some reason really wanted the hard copy. And let me tell you, Monty Python Holy Grail, that takes a lot of ink cartridges to print out, especially when you're doing it for 2 of your friends.
Oh no.
And then highlighting the parts that you're gonna read. I could still sing the Camelot song if you'd like to hear it.
I think I'm good on that.
All right. I have to push the Pramalot. Anyway.
However, listeners, if you'd like to hear Jay sing the Camelot song straight into the mic, that's patreon.com/IDEOTVpod.
And it's not going to happen. Sorry.
This is a special new tier. Literally, it's either 100 of you step up to do this, or it's going to be a lot of fucking Casper ads around this place.
Well, I was going to mention, this episode is brought to you by the Kraft Corporation, where you'll always know where your cheese is.
Aww,
So-
that's really good, actually.
Hit us up. But yeah, so I guess we should talk about this book, right?
Good cheese comes from happy cows. Happy cows come from California. That was an ad campaign that was running like when I moved here. And I don't know, there's just something about it that I find slightly unsettling.
Well, it's because you've seen a dairy farm, probably, and those cows don't seem incredibly happy to me. But we won't get too into that. That would be horribly depressing. It's
true.
So, yeah.
This is our animal rights podcast. So I will be wearing my backpack while other guys pretend to tune and lecturing you about animal rights before we pretend to play a song we wrote.
And I will be wearing my Morrissey Meat is Murder t-shirt while secretly eating a hamburger and trying to impress girls who wear glasses.
You are out of the band.
Sorry, dude.
Like Lisa Simpson, I'm a level 5, or Lisa Simpson's vegan mentor. I'm a level 5 vegan. I don't eat anything that casts a shadow.
Ooh, that's good.
One of the great Simpsons lines of all time, in my opinion.
So now that we've talked about 3 or 4 other properties that are not this book by Dr. Spencer Johnson, you want to get into describing what this thing is about?
I am sure obligated to try.
You are obligated to try. It is, in fact, in the job description. So here we go with a plot in 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You've got 60 seconds to give them a plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
So, plot in 60 seconds. We're going to attempt to sum up this very complicated tale.
This
A
yes.
lengthy tome, by the way.
Jesus, the length of this is matched only by the depths of its insight.
Yes. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
What at first seems to be another cozy mystery actually quickly reveals itself to be stark horror incarnate. You know that one tweet about Harry Potter that says something like, "Welcome to Hogwarts. As we all know, there are 4 types of children: brave, smart, evil, and boring."
Yeah.
So this is kind of like that. It tells the searing tale of the 4 mandatory components of a well-integrated personality. Sniff, the part that notices things. Scurry, the part that goes places. Hem, the part that is paralyzed by fear and completely indignant at all times due to a deep sense of entitlement. And haw, the part that can laugh at itself. These 4 are somehow trapped inside a terrifying maze of unknown construction. Kind of imagine the Hellraiser world.
Definitely. Dark City.
Yes, and they're completely dependent on their survival for a supply of cheese provided by an unseen entity. At some point, the four encounter a large supply of cheese, which for Sniff and Scurry is always literal cheese because Sniff and Scurry are mice, but sometimes for Hem and Haw, the cheese is just a metaphor for what's good in life because Hem and Haw are tiny, mouse-sized humanoids of some kind.
Which is very frightening.
This is extremely troubling.
Yes.
And, despite the fact that they are only mouse-sized humanoids and not actually mice, there is still only cheese to eat. Anyway, the cheese is so abundant, all four stop exploring the maze and just subsist on free cheese. Character is destiny, though, and in time, the cheese runs out, and we are left to see who's who. Sniff and Scurry bail instantly, being evidently quite food-motivated. Hem insists he deserves cheese right where he is, in the teeth of absolutely zero evidence that there will, in fact, ever be any more cheese there. And so, we are left with Haw. Haw sets out into the maze in search of new cheese. And in his efforts and self-growth, attains new tiers of self-knowledge, which he documents by chiseling cryptic slogans onto the walls of the maze inside giant pictures of clip art cheese.
In clip art, it is.
Eventually, Haw, in fact, discovers the new cheese, but he refuses to take it for granted, and he maintains his edge, and he documents his learnings. Hem shows up. This is where it completely goes off the rails. Hem shows up and demands his share of the new cheese, and Haw shrieks, "Say hello to my little friend," and guns him down in an orgy of violence we have not seen since the very, very end of, the Crab Book, or maybe, remember the rat scene in the movie theater?
Yeah.
Where the rats just keep coming, even though there's some shotgun rat killing action.
I don't think that last part actually happened.
I got a little bored.
Yeah, well, so way over 60 seconds. Far more
Again?
Far more insightful than the actual book. But you did point out a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about before we get into high points and low points, and that this is inherently a frightening concept.
That's terrifying.
What we're looking at here is a morality play, essentially, wherein, our main characters, Sniff, Scurry, Hem, Haw, the RZA, Raekwon, Ghostface Killer, and the Osiris of this shit, Old Dirty Bastard, are all trapped in a maze. Some of them are rats. Some of them are tiny humans,
right,
which leads one to believe this is a world where there are also normal-sized humans constructing a maze and putting these tiny humans inside it, which I like to think of as an infinite recursion sort of thing where there's even larger humans building a bigger maze, putting these researchers into it, and so on until, you pull back so far that you can see the entirety of the universe. It's pretty disturbing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So the real question is, who moved whose cheese?
Yeah. Remember that Ziggy cartoon? By the way, I was very disappointed to find out this was not written by the author of Ziggy, because for some reason in my mind, I literally thought it was.
I want to get on that in a second, because you're right. There are some deep continuities there, but I want to jump back to this new sort of dark Ziggy you've created, where I'm guessing the last one that ever runs. I don't know what to call it. Strip panel. It's single panel. What do you call a single panel strip? But anyway, he's lying on his back under the shower rod, and he's like, "I couldn't even tie a good knot."
Oh, no. Oh, no. No, there was a Ziggy, and I distinctly remember this, and I believe it was a multi-panel Ziggy even. Because
there's no such thing.
I think the Sunday ones were multi-panel. Someone will correct us if we're wrong.
Tom Wilson, if you're listening.
But I do recall there being a Ziggy with him thinking, and it panned out, and he was just part of a dot in another Ziggy's foot, and it kept panning out and out and out, and it was just more and more Ziggies, until there was a giant Ziggy floating in space. Maybe I took too much acid and read the Sunday paper.
It's self-loathing failure all the way down, not turtles.
Yeah. So, yeah, this book, not written by Ziggy or the author of Ziggy, but easily could be.
Yeah, and again, while the message isn't that bad, which is something like stay attentive and be flexible, it's a fairly good message, maybe don't pick a device that requires you to convey that message by also conveying the message, the world is an incomprehensible maze.
That you're trapped in
That
with
you're
no
trapped in.
escape.
There is no escape. It's text in this that you should never spend any time worrying about, wait, is my situation bad directly because that benefits somebody whose situation is better?
Hold on to that thought for
Okay.
high points, low points. But yes, you're right, completely. But just put a pin in that one.
Right.
Yeah, you're not supposed to think about that.
No.
You're not supposed to think about, is there danger in this world? As a matter of fact, at one point, Haw, who is definitely supposed to be the, the bold explorer that gets things done because he's willing to grow
And overcome himself and his
yeah.
own limitations.
talks about how he just happily heads down a dark path in the maze he's never been before, which
Right.
seems like kind of bad advice.
And he's our protag.
Yeah.
He's the guy we're stuck with. He's the guy who steps up and does adapt to change and does try and does go on a quest for the new cheese. But it's never made clear that he's actually got anything above sniff and scurry, the
No.
literal mice in running shoes, in literal running shoes.
No, the mice have it figured out, which is interesting because they barely exist as characters, even though they're supposed to be, one of the 4 parts of your psyche. They just kind of disappear right away as soon as the first cache of cheese runs out, and then the next time you see them, they've found the other cache of cheese. So you don't really know too much about them other than
Right.
they're mice. They're apparently smarter than the mice-sized people, which is also horrifying because I'm sure their teeth are sharper and much more capable of gnashing. Just a thought.
Why did Stuart Little breed these tiny people and shove his mice brethren and these tiny people in the maze for his own dark amusement?
It's very weird. So this is, as mentioned earlier, the type of book that, say, bad middle managers at offices like to buy en masse and leave on the desks of their employees because they think it's going to teach them important things like subservience to authority and, say, an unquestioning desire to move forward and a lack of entitlement when it comes to things like, say, job security or a paycheck. And I find that questionable at a very high level.
We cannot spend too much time on this, and by that I mean both not enough time could be spent on it to make the point, and I mean we shouldn't spend too much time on it, but it is explicitly part of the text here in the framing device, which we haven't talked about.
We should next.
Which is how to describe this, the big chill except even grosser.
Uh-huh.
But it's explicitly text that a lot of people encounter difficulties in their lives trying to lay off people who work for them who refuse to adapt to change. The difficulty is, it really bummed me out that I had to lay them off and that they wouldn't adapt to change. And it's text that these people are saying things like, this isn't the organization we signed up to work for. These are not the things we signed up to do.
Yeah.
Which is, as a union member, deeply troubling to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very strange message to tell people that they should just accept whatever is handed to them happily.
Yep.
And, proceed down the course of a new adventure, no matter what that may be.
And it also always boils down to that really gross self-help book lesson, because I'm very sorry, folks. I lied to you earlier. This isn't a cozy mystery. This also isn't a gut-splattering Clive Barker-like tale of existentialist body horror. No, it is in fact a self-help book.
Yeah.
And like all self-help books that end up on this show, it comes packaged with that least favorite lesson for me. If something's a problem, just fucking jettison it and move on.
Yep, that's how everything gets fixed. Ignore it, move forward.
Or just cut it out of your life.
Yeah.
Bad thing in your life,
Sever.
Go away. And The only thing I'd like to say about that is, Dad, are you coming back?
Oh dear. I too feel the same way. Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Podcast. Whoa. Wow. Blast from the past. Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a book about people with absentee fathers. Anyway, moving on. Wow. I'm really sad now. This is one of my favorite kinds of self-help book, though, because it's a book that is 100% subtext, but does not trust the reader to even slightly recognize that it is subtext. And this is illustrated by the framing device. Would you like to describe to our listeners how this is all presented?
Yeah, so we have a high school reunion, I think. Check me if I get any of this wrong. We have a high school reunion.
I won't be able to because it all went in one side and out the other. Yeah.
And like most high school reunions, I guess, because I haven't been to one, it's mostly people talking about the troubles in their lives. And then one of them says, I used to have troubles, but then I heard a story and now I don't have any troubles. And everybody at the table stands up and as one demands that they be told that story, which is the story of the mice in the maze and the little people in the maze. Mm-hmm. And then after that story is told, they all adjourn to dinner and drinks and sit around and talk about how they don't think they're going to have any more problems now that they've heard this story.
Yes, it's so great. It is the author jerking himself off for like the last 20 pages of this book via characters saying things like, I used to be more like Haw, but now I think I'm going to be more like Scurry. And,
everybody needs to be like Haw.
You're right. Sorry. I used to be more like Hem, but now I need to be more like Haw. And it almost like goes around the table with people being like, I'm kind of in a bad relationship right now, so maybe it's time for me to be like Haw and find a new relationship. And then someone else will be like, or maybe what you need to do is find a new relationship with the same person, and like things like that. And it's just like literally like the last, it's like the last half of this book is just the author reassuring you the things I just told you, they're right and they're really smart and they're good and you should do them.
Let me do a deeper dive into the length of this book, because you were talking about how long that closing segment is, where it is literally just, hey, did you hear that story about the cheese? That was a really good story. Yeah, I too agree that it was a really good story.
That story about the cheese changed my life. I'm really glad Tom told it to us.
Yeah. Okay, so this hardback, which I found at a local thrift store, came out in 1998 or thereabouts, and is priced at USA $19.95.
Well, nobody was moving this dude's cheese, that's for sure.
Hey! Oh! You come ready to move Spencer Johnson MD's cheese, you better be prepared to move weight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's got that work in his trunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a creation joke in 2018. Great job, me. Okay, anyway.
This is a 96-page book.
Ooh.
It's 96 pages, 1995. The title page apparently counts as page 1 because we get the title page, then praise for Spencer Johnson's books, then a brief 2-page thing about how good the book is, then a bunch of blurbs for Who Moved My Cheese, then books by Spencer Johnson MD, then the title page, then the, front matter page, then 2 poems of dedication, blank page, table of contents, an explanation of the book you're about to read, a 7 or 8 page intro from his co-writer of the 1 Minute Manager series, and then the book proper, the 96-page book proper, begins on page 21 with a framing device. Mm-hmm. The story proper does not begin until page 25. The story proper then ends on page 76.
Okay.
So we have a 51-page story. Many of those pages, it
for
should be noted.
$20.
For $20. Many of those pages, it should be noted, are full-page illustrations of the same picture, the same clip art picture of cheese every single time with like a DMX lyric printed on top of it.
Yes, and not even bothered, like, it should be mentioned, you said clip art cheese earlier. Like, they didn't even bother to justify the text so it looks written on the cheese. It's just a piece of clip art cheese with horizontally justified text typed on top of it.
Typed on top of it.
It looks like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, and then 77 to 94 is the authorial self-hand job, which we tend to call masturbation.
Yeah.
And then 95 is an ad for other cheese-like products, as is page 96, which is entitled Cheese for All, because in case this book was a little too hard for teens or children, fret not. There are, in fact, versions for teens and children.
All right. This is a kid's book. There is no way you could make this book more for teens or children than it already is, unless maybe you replace like the high school reunion with like a playground scene or a teacher reading it to a kindergarten class.
Yeah, I lightly disagree with that, only because, you know, we are broken adults.
Yeah.
We understand and have come to sad terms with the fact that our lives are in pursuit of the metaphorical cheese, you know, which is basically just, I'm on the life treadmill going to work, living my life, so that periodically I can get off that treadmill and enjoy free, brief moments of blessed annihilation.
That's true.
Right? Like, I'm not actually at work right now.
Yeah.
So we understand the pursuit of the cheese. I'm not sure that children and teens do.
Yeah, teens know they got to get that cheddar for sure. In our day and age. But yeah, younger children, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not.
They might still think life is good and not, in fact, say, a horrifying maze.
Constructed by people larger than you.
Yeah.
Who have put you in a maze with rats and mice the same size as you.
Oh, they do understand that then.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I remember grade school being pretty rough, so... I got beat up a lot by this kid called Hem. I don't know.
He was always like, hey, kid, you got my cheese money?
Yeah. I kept it inside the pockets of my kangaroos, but he found him anyway.
Hey, cheese don't grow on trees, you know what I'm saying?
But, okay. Oh, this is a hard book to talk about because it's barely a book. But I do think it's time for us to move into some high points and then some low points. And so let's go ahead and do that. Here is a song.
High points are high, and the points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
So in high points, low points, we try to talk about the good, we talk about the bad. You take them both, and then you have a shitty parable about tiny people fighting with mice for crumbs of cheese that they're eating literally from the floor.
Yay!
Okay, so Collision, would you like to start us out with a high point?
Yeah, this may be because I was reading this while a trifle peckish, but all the mentions of cheese are fairly well observed and really resonated with me. I'd like to read you a bit of them.
Okay.
He used his imagination to paint the most believable picture he could with the most realistic details of him finding and enjoying the taste of new cheese. He saw himself eating Swiss cheese with holes in it, bright orange cheddar and American cheeses. Soft low point for American cheese, which isn't even cheese.
Yeah.
Italian.
We'll let it slide.
Italian mozzarella and wonderfully soft camembert cheese. And so that's
And
one.
stinky Limburger.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I thought that was like passionate. You could really see the author's enthusiasm for cheese coming through.
Okay, so I've got a high point here. I think it's something we alluded to earlier. This is ultimately a pretty difficult message to argue with. It's a pretty good message. It's common sense masquerading as wisdom, which is a problem in and of itself. But at least it doesn't dip into like Jordan Peterson territory and, go to the dark place that you could go to with a book like this. Wait.
Uh-oh.
It's time for my first low point. which is an excerpt from the book itself.
Not having cheese is a agent of the chaotic feminine.
It's not quite that, but I think this is a low point in that, yes, unfortunately, this metaphor does get taken to a relatively dark place. Because Hem, when he first discovers that the cheese from Cheese Station C has run out, becomes very, very self-entitled and says, "Why should we change?" Hem asked. "We're little people. We're special. This sort of thing should not happen to us, or if it does, we should at least get some benefits." "Why should we get benefits?" Ha asked. "Because we're entitled," Hem claimed. "Entitled to what?" Ha wanted to know. "We're entitled to our cheese." "Why?" Ha asked. "Because we didn't cause this problem," Hem said. "Somebody else did this, and we should get something out of it." So, yep, we've now dipped directly into the anarcho-capitalist well of bullshit business owner philosophy that I thought the book did a pretty good job of avoiding up until that point, but there you see its dark soul peeking through its beady little eyes, and that was a little upsetting to me.
And while, Hem is explicitly a negative character who you're not supposed to be like, what you're not supposed to do is insist that you have rights.
Yeah.
And that's not a message that I'm super down with.
You're also not supposed to, think that maybe, say, perhaps somebody else's problem should deprive you of, someone else's poor decision-making should deprive you of the things you need to live, which I'm not really on board with that line of thinking either, especially when you're talking about people more powerful than you, say, the people who fill the cheese station. I think if the people more powerful than me making the decisions fuck up, I kind of am entitled to some recompense. I guess I'm a horrible person.
I also think this is a not very subtly coded message about why should anything be taken away from me and given to somebody else who makes bad decisions, like not pulling their pants up or not choosing to be born in the suburbs instead of choosing to be born in the inner city, which is their own fault, not fucking mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Slavery's been illegal for like 50 years now, so I don't want to hear about the legacy of racism, says Hem.
It is that kind of mentality, and it slips through, and it only slips through in that one little section, but it's enough to kind of turn me off of the rest of the book, where it very much just, it does... I mean, the word entitlement is explicitly used there, and that is a dog whistle and a half as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, that was my first low point. So, Collision, low point.
This is more literary and less political.
Okay.
But I'm also going to illustrate it by reading to you from this magnificent tome. Now and then, Haw thought about his mice friends, Sniff and Scurry, and wondered if they had found any cheese yet. He believed they might be having a hard time, as running through the maze usually involved some uncertainty. But he also knew that it was likely to only last for a while. Sometimes, Haw would imagine Sniff and Scurry finding new cheese and enjoying it. This time, new cheese was capitalized, the first time it wasn't. He thought about how good it would be for him to be out on an adventure in the maze. This time, maze is capitalized. Last time, it was also capitalized, my bad. And to find fresh, new cheese. He could almost taste it. You know what? When your metaphor is already a little rickety and is depending on distinguishing between small C cheese, which is just cheese, and big C cheese, which is a metaphor per the book jacket for what you want to have in life, whether it is a good job, a loving relationship, money, a possession, health, or spiritual peace of mind. Like, when that's already your metaphor, piling on it the figure of speech, he could almost taste it, is uniquely clumsy.
Yeah.
It's uniquely a failure of metaphors.
Oh, this entire book is a failure of metaphors.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's very obvious that the PhD in question here has nothing to do with literature. Because this is one of the most clumsily employed examples of just a metaphorical text that I've read in a long time.
You might call it a little cheesy. Do you have another downside?
I do. Other than that pun, yes. This one, just, this is just me being me. But throughout the book, whenever our heroes, any of them really, find a new cache of cheese, one of the first things they do is remove their running shoes, tie the strings, and put them around their neck. Motherfucker,
Oh, yeah.
stop tying your stinky ass shoes around your neck and running around with them. You aren't even going to be able to taste the cheese to start with because you're going to have stank ass running shoe smell all up in your biz.
Apparently, you don't like good cheese because that's what good cheese smells like,
You've
my man.
never smelled my shoes. And also, as mentioned before, even when they find the cheese, the non-metaphorical cheese, it's in a pile on the floor,
Right.
which is gross. Don't tie your shoes around your neck and don't eat things off the floor.
Somebody had to have come up with a parody of this where it turns out that that big pile of cheese is just on top of what turns out to be a mouse trap and it kills Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw, right? Somebody had to have done that in 1999.
It would have been great, and it probably would have been on one of those like Maddox.xmission type websites that everybody looks back on now and is like, oof, wow, comedy was really edgy and bad in the late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, but you have to filter through like 7 different, I hate Barney the dinosaur, he should be dead and killed by me parodies to get there.
Ninjas and pirates are the best.
Okay, I didn't know about Ninjas and Pirates until I'm going to say 2003.
You never read RealUltimatePower.net?
Yeah, but that was much later. I did not read that until it was a book.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so you never experienced the website, which had a MIDI version of Big Pimpin', which also, hey, spending cheese.
I did have a MIDI ringtone of Stunt 101, my favorite G-Unit song.
How many times on this show have we mentioned Stunt 101?
I think that it says in my contract that I have to mention it every 6 episodes or I get kicked.
Yeah, well, listener
I
project.
don't like being kicked.
Go back and count, tally, keep yourself busy.
The first 50...
Push those download numbers up.
Yeah, exactly. The first 50 might actually have been done for you because we had a wiki set up for us by a couple of deeply, deeply disturbed fans who we could not love or esteem more. But I think that petered out around episode 50.
Yeah, we're hard to keep track of. We're slippery, like new cheese.
We're slippery like G-Unit stealing cars like in the Stunt 101 video.
Whoa.
It's a really good video.
I'm more like on an airboat like Fat Joe in the 100 Million.
Wait,
Every day's a new whip, homie, so you know I gets my grind on.
is it a fan boat?
Yeah, it's an airboat.
Excellent. Put a pin in Get Your Grind On because we're going to be coming back to that.
Are we going to be grinding some delicious cheese?
You. Yes, we will. I guess it's time for me to do a low point. This is, again, a much more narrow, targeted low point. And it comes near the end of our time with Hem. With Haw. As Haw recalled what he had learned, he thought about his friend Hem. He wondered if Hem had read any of the sayings Haw had written on the wall at Cheese Station C and throughout the maze. Had Hem ever decided to let go and move on? Had he ever entered the maze and discovered what could make his life better? Or was Hem still hemmed in because he would not change? Haw thought about going back again to Cheese Station C to see if he could find Hem. If he found Hem, he thought he might be able to show him how to get out of his predicament. But Haw realized that he had already tried to get his friend to change. Okay, 2 low points here. 1, you don't have to beat me over the head with Hem in. This should just say, who moved my cheese for dummies?
Yeah.
Because that's how it fucking treats me. 2, the lol fuck it, I tried moment is not my favorite moment in any self-help book, least of all this one.
I mean, much like Jordan Peterson's advice from quite a few episodes ago, the best thing to do when you have a friend who has a problem is just abandon them.
Yeah, fuck it. You tried.
Oh, speaking of problems, that was a really hard beer to open. It didn't make the sound I wanted it to make. And by the problem, I mean opening the beer, not drinking it. Save your concerned emails. But moving on, I think, I guess we were doing one more round of high points.
We're gonna try. Good luck, buddy. You want to go first?
I will, although I will say it has basically nothing to do with the book at all because, my original high point I realized I had already blown, which was imagining a universe where there's just gradually larger and larger groups of humans putting smaller and smaller humans and mice into mazes.
That's a
ad
high
infinitum.
point?
Yeah, it's trippy as fuck, dude. It's like one of those things you like from the Mind's Eye 3D animation CDs you check out from the library.
You're a monster, dude.
I am. So instead, my high point is going to relate directly to the experience of reading this book, which I didn't have the hardback. What I did have was...
Apparently you don't go to the used book repositories like you need to.
I can't believe anyone will let this off of their shelf. What I did have was a bootleg-ass PDF that I downloaded and converted into an ebook file and put on my e-reader. And for some reason, it converted just about every space into a line break, which makes the entire thing read like a piece of very strange free verse. So here's a small example. Hem and Haw went home that night hungry and discouraged, but before they left, Haw wrote on the wall. The next day, Hem and Haw left their homes and returned to Cheese Station C again, where they still expected somehow to find their cheese. The situation hadn't changed. The cheese was no longer there. The little people didn't know what to do. Hem and Haw just stood there immobilized, like two statues.
Holy fuck. It was like William Shatner was right here with us.
Yeah, well, that's how reading this whole book was. Also, small side note, I read most of this while eating ramen. And while I was there, I watched a very, very rude tourist couple enter. The man was wearing a Washington Redskins t-shirt with the giant, horrible, offensive logo on it. And they were very loudly complaining to one another about how they were not being seated despite the fact that there were empty seats. Now, this is a restaurant that when you enter, there is a very large pad that says, please sign up here to be seated, which neither of them had bothered to do. But we're, just having this loud conversation about how bad the service was. At one point, a young woman who worked there went up and asked them to leave because she didn't want his t-shirt to disturb the other customers, which is one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my restaurant going experience in my life. Wow. And to this point, I don't know if that was a purely political act or just a good excuse to kick out some rude motherfuckers, but it made reading this book much better, and I got some great ramen.
A high point. Whew. This is going to take us far afield, and I'm not going to let myself do something like, oh, I liked this because it was something I'd randomly picked up for the show 2 years ago, and it was nice to finally get it off the shelf, or it's well under 100 pages, and most of those are large spaces.
Which, to be fair, that is a high point, I think, for both of us.
Absolutely.
This was a very fast book to read, which was good after the debacle of having to record last episode twice and only having like 4 days to finish the book. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. A high point is that most of the complete garbage aphorisms in this are hilarious and send your mind into a place where you're trying to do better. So there's one in particular that's about halfway through that just says, if you do not change, you can become extinct. And I was like, that is such a first draft. Let me think about how that could be improved, right? Mm-hmm. How about new cheese is life?
There you go.
How about you need cheese? How about change for the cheese?
Disappearing cheese, extinction level event.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. You could do them like Dune, Arrakis, desert planet. No. You, new cheese finder, cheese maze.
Choose the cheese.
Ooh.
Or choose to lose.
Yes.
Hell no, we won't go. Find new cheese.
What do we want? New cheese. When do we want it? Now.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think we've exhausted the possibilities of good things in this book. I know we haven't exhausted the possibilities of bad things in this book, but it would, You don't want to listen to another 15 minutes of us just ranting and raving about how poorly written it is or how the framing device solely exists for the author to give himself a 20-page back pat.
And 20 pages of back padding, not just patting.
Yeah. That's good. Yep.
That's patreon.com/IDEOTV pod.
For more puns and wordplay like this, there's only one place you can find it, brought to you by Kraft, the company that will never move your cheese.
And that's my apartment.
Yes. And Velveeta doesn't count. That shit is not actually cheese.
No, but if you dump a can of Rotel in there and throw it in the crock pot, that is a tasty dip.
Is Provel cheese?
I don't know.
That's that weird shit they put on St. Louis pizza. I need to stop right now. This is going down controversial territory, but yeah, it's this weird like kind of mozzarella but globby, and it's what they put on pizza in St. Louis, and it has a distinctive flavor. I actually enjoy it. I'm just not entirely sure if it's cheese or not.
I think I was having trouble. I was imagining those Baby Bell cheeses.
Oh no, I love Baby Bell cheese. Because I am a child.
It's like a snack and a toy all in one. What could be better?
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what could be better. Taking a break.
We're going to take a break, make some ants on a log, and we'll be back with some campfire songs and other insights into how to protect your cheese.
Like smoking Joe Frazier, the Hellraiser, raising hell with the flavor, terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan, swinging through your town like your neighborhood Spider-Man. So tick tock and keep ticking, while I get you flipping off the shit I'm kicking. The Lone Ranger, co-ed, danger, deep in the dark with the art to rip the charts apart. The vandal.
We're back, and we're talking about who moved my cheese. We're now going to play some games, much like, say, something you might find next to the Junior Jumble, perhaps. A maze?
Fuck, I wish. Is this National Geographic World callback time?
No, highlights for kids.
Oh.
But what we've got here is the bubbliest and most cheesy segment in podcasting history. I was trying to think of more ways to describe delicious, cooking, bubbling, stringy cheese, but I couldn't.
Tune in next week to hear our pitch for an exciting new book, Who Rose My Dough?
There we go.
Our new pizza-based, self-help, faith-based initiative book.
I'll tell you who moved my cheese. The delivery man who showed up yesterday when I ordered pizza, and all of it was on one side because he drove like an asshole. Oh, thanks, Domino's, for fixing my potholes in our libertarian nightmare.
Damn, this guy doesn't care who he pisses off.
Something about left shark. All right, anyway. This is Dramatic Readings. Here's a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so Dramatic Readings. We're going to take parts of this book. We're going to read them to you. I think, Collision, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Because I hate every word of this thing. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Mostly just because I want to take a big swig of my beer, which luckily no one has moved.
A slight... Okay, so I think both of us are drawing our readings from the framing device, because perhaps you've gotten a deep enough taste of the delicious cheese in the center of this tale. So now let us investigate the crispy surround.
Yes, because the actual parable here reads mostly like, Ha and Hem looked around. They did not see any cheese. They were like, oh no, there is no more cheese. So... Ha said, I should put on my running shoes and find more cheese. But Hem said, I am going to wait here for the cheese to which I am entitled. Then Ha went into the maze and looked for cheese, etc., etc.
Hem died alone off screen.
Yeah, oh, it's mentioned at some point that they have homes,
Yeah.
but they also live in a maze.
Yeah. They have homes that they relocate near to Cheese Station C at one point. And there's actually a throwaway paragraph that I should have highlighted because it's one of the funniest things in the book, which is they, quote, bring their friends to show them the cheese and brag about it.
There's more tiny people?
Yeah, somewhere in the maze.
Oh, but they probably have normal names like Frank and Brian.
No, it's just hem, haw.
Oh, no, I said it earlier. RZA, Raekwon, Old Dirty Bastard. Maybe if you really want to get deep out into the realms of the cheese affiliates, you might find, say, like a Killa Army or a Shorty Shitstain.
Or, if we want to keep
Boosh, by the way. I think that was the first Shorty Shitstain joke I've made in 113 episodes of this podcast, and I'm very proud of myself. Yes, that's a real rapper. Look him up. Anyway.
If we want to keep the names closer to this, it would be like hem, haw, urge. I'm out of other ones. I don't know.
Id.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I did find the paragraph.
Eminem. I'm just imagining him rapping about cheese in this voice.
Sometimes Hem and Haw would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point to it with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, huh?" Sometimes they shared it with their friends, and sometimes they didn't. That's a little bonus reading for you.
Okay, so that's like when you were in college and you were broke and you smoked weed, but you didn't have any money, and sometimes you would go over and hang out with the guy that you knew that you were kind of friends with who smoked weed, but you didn't really like him a lot, and you'd hang out there just hoping he was going to break out the bong at some point while playing Tony Hawk, but it didn't always happen, but you would hope for it anyway, and maybe sometimes you'd say something like, "Man, I haven't smoked weed for like 3 days," and just hope he was going to bring it out, but sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. It's a power play.
Is that why Steve would come over?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I thought we were really friends.
I thought he really liked to watch me play Tony Hawk too.
Damn it, Steve. Okay, anyway, I owe you a dramatic reading, so let's get into it. A slight smile crossed Richard's face as he said, "I must admit, I like this idea of seeing new cheese and imagining yourself enjoying it. It lightens everything up. When you see how it can make things better, you get more interested in making the change happen. Maybe I could use this in my personal life. My children seem to think that nothing in their lives should ever change. I guess they're acting like him. They're angry. They're probably afraid of what the future holds. Maybe I haven't painted a realistic picture of new cheese for them. Probably because I don't see it myself." The group was quiet as several people thought about their own lives. "Well," Jessica said, "most people here have been talking about jobs, but as I listened to the story, I also thought about my personal life. I think my current relationship is old cheese that has some pretty serious mold on it."
Damn.
Corey laughed in agreement. "Me too. I probably need to let go of a bad relationship." Side note, Corey, your game level is not extraordinary.
I was just
here.
thinking, I'm like, Corey is trying for the obvious hookup play here. It's not working.
Hey, it's reunion time, huh? Maybe you look at me and see how I looked when I was 18, huh?
Look, we both got some old cheese. We're both looking for new cheese. How about some new old cheese? You know what I'm saying?
Angela countered. Or perhaps the old cheese is just old behavior. What we really need to let go of is the behavior that is the cause of our bad relationships.
Corey mumbled something about the friend zone. Sorry.
And then move on to a better way of thinking and acting. Ouch, Corey reacted.
Yeah.
Ouch, Corey reacted is a remarkable sentence.
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to read this without doing the free verse style that this book has inherently presented me with, but I probably will add in some awkward pauses. I swear I'm not trying to do a Christopher Walken. It's just the way it shows up on my screen. But this is Michael, who was a successful business leader who had to make some changes. Talking to the people at his high school reunion.
Breaking it down.
I believe he's also the one who tells the story, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Sure.
Or it could have been Richard. Whatever. It's a bunch of white people with white people names.
Who
Oh, damn.
cares?
Okay, so... Michael said, "Well, that's how we improved our business. We had several discussions about what we got from the cheese story and how we could apply it to our situation. It was great because we had language that was fun for us to use to talk about how we were dealing with change. It was very effective, especially as it spread deeper into the company.
Michael used bullshit cheese story. It was super effective.
Nathan asked, "What did you mean by deeper?" Well, the further we went into our organization, the more people we found who felt they had less power. They were understandably more afraid of what the change imposed from above might do to them, so they resisted change. In short, a change imposed is a change opposed. Whoa. But when the cheese story was shared with literally everyone in our organization, it helped us change the way we looked at change. It helped everyone laugh or at least smile as their old fears and want to move on, and their paychecks disappeared, and their job security vanished, and they were left destitute, homeless, and starving to death. Oh, wait, no, I made that part. I only wish I'd heard the cheese story sooner, Michael added. How come? Carlos asked. Because by the time we got around to addressing the changes, our business had already fallen off so badly that we had to let people go, as I said earlier, including some good friends. It was hard on all of us. However, those who stayed, and most of those who left, said the cheese story helped them see things differently and eventually cope better. Those who had to go out and look for a new job said it was hard at first, but recalling the cheese story was a great help to them. Angela asked, what helped them most? Michael replied, after they got past their fear, they told me the best thing was realizing that there was new cheese out there just waiting to be found. They said holding a picture of new cheese in their minds, seeing themselves doing well in a new job, made them feel better and helped them do better in job interviews. Several got jobs.
Yay!
Who moved my cheese, a.k.a. how not to feel guilty about firing half of your workforce.
Who sourced my out?
Yeah. No, this I said earlier that this is a very, very hard moral to argue with. And I think at the root of it, it is. But the problem is the way it's applied is toxic.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, don't be afraid of change. That's a good message. Don't be afraid of change in the context of, I am your manager telling you I'm about to fire you, but don't be worried about it. That's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a very dramatic reading.
Totally. It chilled me to the spine as a guy who, like most of us, I think lives with a deep and stern sense of the total precariousness of my economic situation, knowing that I am one capricious decision from my boss or one injury or illness away from, total destitution.
Yeah, I mean, we both live in the Bay Area where it is impossible to save money. Yep. And I will tell you right now, if somebody moved my cheese, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now that we're done with all that hilarious content.
Capitalism is ruining my life.
It's ruining all of our lives. It's ruining society.
And the planet.
Yep. But, we're just here making a podcast about books. So, let's take a break, recalibrate, start thinking straight, and we'll be right back. We've located the cheese, folks, and we're done talking about this book. So it's time to move on to recommendations for other things. I believe I will go first. This was something that we discussed off the air a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And I just recently rewatched the movie version of it last night because it is probably my favorite movie that's ever existed. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. We had a bit of a tete-a-tete about this. The author's name is pronounced John Le Carré. You were right. However, it is a pen name.
Yes.
For David John Cromwell. Right. So, a little questionable. But I would recommend both the book and the movie. I'd read the novel first because I feel like it's a masterclass in how you turn a suspense thriller into a really, really good suspenseful movie. The movie itself is fucking awesome, too, because it has a cast like... It's an all-star cast. I mean, you get like a lot of big names in it. You also get a lot of some of my favorite character actors in the world, like Kieran Hines, who played Mance Rayder from Game of Thrones, or if you watched The Terror, he was great on that. And also the unfortunately infrequently lauded Toby Jones, who's one of my favorite British actors. He's a very small, diminutive individual who is very good at being outsizedly, what's the word I'm looking for? Imposing.
Evil? Yeah.
Evil, yeah. And also features Benedict Cumberbatch playing to his true strengths, in my opinion, which is being vaguely unsettling and looking like a creepy alien. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, both the novel and the movie, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, you could do much worse than consuming those. And like I said, I definitely, if you're not familiar with the novel, I'd read it first, because the movie just does such a great job of showing you how you can turn a book into an awesome screenplay and not lose anything in the translation.
I have not actually had the pleasure of reading the book. I do know that the movie is absolutely one of my favorite movies of the last couple decades. I think it's the movie that people think Zodiac is, and I think Zodiac is, capital V, capital G, very good.
Yeah.
I think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is capital G, great. And I think a lot of that is just the source material. I tried to audiobook it because I'm on a new audiobook kick. Mm-hmm. And what I got was not the actual audiobook, but a BBC...
Ooh, a cast recording.
Yeah.
I love those.
3-episode, real radio play, with occasional sound effects and everything.
Oh, wow.
And multiple different voices, and it cuts it way down because it's less than 3 hours long.
Yeah, and it has to, because so much of what goes on is visual, for sure.
And it cuts it to many fewer characters. I think there might be 8 or 10 in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking great. So it's 2 separate adaptations into completely other genres, completely other forms of art that are very high quality. I have no doubt that the book is rad. Yesterday, I read 100 and some pages of The Night Manager, another Le Carré book, and it is also super rad.
I mean, I mentioned this before on the show, I think briefly, because I didn't want to get a bunch of hate mail about my grandfather, but he was an intelligence man. That was his job. And he had a shelf full of these books. So if people who did this for a living enjoyed this guy's writing, I think that says a lot about how it is written. And yeah, I just will say, I am not the type of person to rewatch movies unless I'm real bored and I'm also fucking around on my phone. I've watched Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy about 5 times this year and paid close attention every time. It is great.
It's almost even better once you kind of know where it's going. You don't have to worry so much about that, because a lot of the experience of Le Carré, and I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th novel of his, and have seen other shows and movies and whatever. A lot of it is the experience of being very at sea and having no idea how this is going to end up
until you come in from the cold, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah. So it makes it uniquely satisfying that even when you take away that kind of core experience, which is being unsettled and not knowing where all this is going, that it's still extremely high quality and still really enjoyable. That's just kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I agree 100%. Sorry it wasn't a self-help book, folks. I don't really read that kind of stuff, so I just went way off into left field.
Speaking of left field...
Hunter Pence is injured again.
What? Who?
I don't. Yeah, anyway,
speaking of left field, mine is also slightly non-standard, except in its form, which is a longish blog post on the New York Review of Books website. It is by...
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it. Books.
Are
they any good?
Unknown.
All right.
If all of them were, we'd be out of a side gig.
That's true.
So it's good that they're not all. It is by a journalist named Rose George. It's called It Feels Like a Derangement, Menopause, Depression, and Me. It is extremely what it sounds like, but from an interesting perspective that, I don't know, just resonated with a lot of stuff I've been reading lately. I just did the audiobook of Between the World and Me, the Ta-Nehisi Coates book. I also last time recommended Han Kang or Kong, I'm not sure, book, The Vegetarian, and both of those are very, very much about the body. This follows that kind of string of thinking. So it's got me thinking a lot about bodies, other people's bodies, and in a kind of an interesting way. So, read that. It takes longer than you'd expect for a blog post. It is full of, it's a rough ride, but it's well worth doing, I think.
A rough ride.
Yep.
Is it just how Rough Riders roll?
Interestingly, one of the things that it's about is your body kind of breaking down and betraying you in a variety of ways. And yet she is also an assiduous runner. So it'll be all this stuff about like how everything is completely fucked. And yet she still ran 10 miles that day.
So even though she stopped
which is interesting.
And dropped, she also shut him down and opened up a shop. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to trivialize.
One of the things
I just wanted to go back to the DMX joke. I'm sorry.
It's all right. One of the things I think is really interesting about it is it does also remind you that like you don't know what somebody's necessarily what their situation is. You look at somebody like, oh, they're just running on the trail. I think I know everything about them. They must be happy and well off because otherwise how could they run 10 miles today? And in fact, possibly those things may be wildly false. Anyway, it's an interesting read.
All right. So frequently we get letters and usually we play a song before them. So unlike last week, here it is.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter M, letter G, letter. Got a lot of letters.
All right. I understand we got a lot of letters.
We do. The first one is from Andrew, fake last name, and is a master class in how to get a letter read on IDEO TV Pod.
So did it involve a check?
No, that is a postgraduate class.
Okay, gotcha.
This subject line reads, "No, you were right."
Oh, okay. That's even better. I'll accept that more than monetary.
You had my interest. Now you have my attention. Or maybe the other way around. I can't remember. And it goes like this. I found you guys as a recommendation from another podcast called Role Playing Public Radio.
What? I've never heard of this show, but I'm going to look it up right now.
Chris, as a lapsed dice man, you might like their work, and then proceeded to mainline your podcast for months, while quietly evangelizing you to my lit-minded friends.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that you're right-ish about epitomes. Oh, no, sorry, record scratch. Epitomes.
Ooh.
Though you were off on parsing the word, epitomes were book-related.
Huh.
It was a common ancient practice of trying to rewrite a text in a more concise way. Literally, plot in 60 seconds is a modern epitome in the old sense.
Oh, cool.
Sorry if you were already well aware of this.
I was not.
Wildly unaware of that.
I was
myself.
Not. Yeah, no, this is good.
Extremely cool. Anyway, love your work. Keep writing those crabs. Andrew, fake last name, from Australia.
Thank you, Andrew. Excellent letter.
Yeah.
More with the praise, folks.
Well, and like, and I think that's one to grow on for me. I did not know what the epitome was. And
Yeah.
I supposedly have a, capital C classical education.
Yeah, somebody write in and explain anathema to me, and I'll be really happy.
Well, she is a punk rock DJ
Okay.
who only plays punk covers of TV and movie theme songs.
Ooh, like when Christy Front Drive did the Mary Tyler Moore theme song.
Yeah, everybody did that. That was actually probably Christy Front Drive doing Husker Du's version of the Mary Tyler Moore theme song.
Probably, yeah.
We have another letter.
Okay.
It is from Everett, fake middle initial, fake last name. And it goes like this. Dear Jay and Collision, I'm not much of a reader of mysteries, but I've read a few in a series by Julia Spencer Fleming, starting with her 2001 book, In the Bleak Midwinter. And I wasn't going to write you to mention them until I got to a certain point in the Otter of Death episode, when I just had to exclaim, "Oh, come on now!" I'm glad to hear that is not an experience unique to the purveyors of this podcast.
I was just going to say, I do that about 3 times per book.
Spencer Fleming's hero is Reverend Claire Ferguson, an Episcopal priest assigned to a parish in rural New York State. Earlier in her life, she was an Army helicopter pilot. You might ask, in the course of solving a mysterious murder in her parish, does Reverend Ferguson have to fly a helicopter? And the answer is, oh, hell yes. So I think we can just all understand that this letter is a supplemental recommendation.
Yes.
Helicopter Priest was a comic book I pitched several times. It never went anywhere. I'm glad somebody picked up the mantle. The point in your podcast when I realized I had to write was when you revealed that in the honor of death, our hero Teddy, what's this our shit, is engaged to the local sheriff, just as in Murdered by Wine, our hero, what's this our shit, Kelly, is married to the local sheriff. Because guess who our hero, Reverend Ferguson, becomes romantically involved with over the course of several books?
A enterprising janitor.
The local sheriff? No. It's the local chief of police.
Oh, God damn it.
So yeah, that apparently we're on to something, and that's just kind of built in. Although, if you haven't heard it, you can hear us guesting on related sort of fellow traveler podcast, Dave and Jeb Aren't Mean, not too long ago, where our amateur sleuth was married to a architecty, contractory kind of guy.
Thingy.
I think he was a contractor.
But she was childhood friends with a homicide detective.
I mean, she's definitely tight bros from way back when with the local gendarme.
Excellent band, by the way.
Mediocre band. I prefer Carp and Big Business in that order.
Carp, which stands for Kill All Redneck Pricks, and there's an amazing documentary about them that is now available on DVD after like 10 years.
Is it available on DVD again? I know it's available on Amazon streaming.
Oh, maybe it's streaming only. But yeah, check out that documentary if you want to see a cool hardcore band.
Because that documentary, let's take a little digression, shall we?
We shall, because the Carp Rye Coalition split 7-inch is one of the best pieces of music I own, and one of the only 7 inches I've reordered as an adult after losing it once because it's so fucking good.
Carp is amazing. They changed my life despite the fact that I did not discover them until long after they had ceased to be a going concern. The documentary is maybe number 2 or 3 on lists of best music docs I've ever seen, and has been completely unavailable for decades. Strongest possible, not decades, for years. Strongest possible recommendation, even if you think you don't like heavy music. I think there's a little something there for everybody. And that DVD has been on my Christmas list for a lot of years, and I continue to not get it because as far as I know, it's still not available on DVD, but it is available on streaming right now.
I follow Carp on Facebook. They post about once every 3 years. Yeah. I know they posted it was available on streaming. I'm pretty sure they said DVD as well. So maybe go check that out. I should
check that out. They've turned into many other bands since then. Jared, the bassist singer, is now in a band called Big Business, who are excellent.
Yeah. And Rye Coalition, the band they did the split with, basically turned into an ironic version of AC/DC, which is very, very much worth listening to. They had an album called On Top. Then they had an album produced by Dave Grohl, which is a piece of shit, and don't listen to that one. Okay, continue.
Okay, we have one final letter. And, we've had a lot of fun. But now it's time to take our turn in the barrel and come in for some scathing criticism and some perspectives that we perhaps understood imperfectly.
What did I say this time?
I'm joking.
Okay.
This is from Jessica, fake last name. It is entitled The Honor of Death. Hi, guys. You were pretty negative on the author's description of Amber Lynn's way of paying for college being threatening, and pointed out that her relationship was consensual. However, I think that probably why the relationship is described as threatening is specifically because she's involved with a married man. Obviously, he's to blame for violating his marriage vows, not her, but it sounded to me like that's what the author is judging rather than the mere existence of the sugar daddy / baby relationship.
I see.
So here, the she's no threat, which I was kind of harping on.
Yes.
The threat was to the stability or consistency or existence of the marriage.
That's true, and I guess, and the threatening line was delivered by the wife in the married couple. So I could see it, from that way. It was threatening the stability of her marriage.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
That might be right. It's certainly not how I read it. So thanks for the additional perspective.
I might be crazy, and I might just be the lunatic you're looking for. But no, that's insightful.
Werewolves of Jersey. It's a little blend of Warren Zevon and Billy Joel, drunk driver and wife beater.
So if you blend Warren Zevon and Billy Joel, then you might end up with a Kid Rock single. If you throw some Lynyrd Skynyrd in there too.
I mean, if you blended them, you could probably get the thing that neither of them did, which is an entire album side consisting of nothing but good songs.
Wow.
Shots fired. Get at me, singer-songwriter lovers.
I'm trying to think of any Warren Zevon song that isn't Werewolves of London, and I'm struggling. So
Desperados Under the Eaves is the one that people say is really, really great. Mm-hmm. I agree. It is a very good song. It is also one song. So those were letters. Thank you so much. If you'd like to send us a letter of your very own, you can do so at I Don't Even Own a Television, all one word, no underscores or spaces, at gmail.com.
You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at IDEOTVPod. And perhaps most importantly, this episode, like all of our episodes, is brought to you by our Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/IDEOTVPod and the Kraft Cheese Company, who will never move your cheese.
Thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you. If you've told a friend, please do try to rate and review us on your podcast source of choice. And if you do choose to support us on Patreon, thank you so much for moving some of your cheese into our larder.
Into our cheese. What is it called? A cheese container? I can't remember. Like cheese containment unit C?
Oh shit. What was it? Sorry, I've got pens on my book. Yeah.
A very industrial word for where all the cheese...
Cheese Station Z.
Cheese Station C. That's it. Yes. Thank you for moving your cheese into our station.
Which I really actually kind of enjoyed that. There was another thing where like one of them was trying to move to Camembert Lane, and I just kind of giggled a little bit.
Speaking of station, did you know there's a Criterion version of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
Jesus Christ.
All right, on that note, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in another couple weeks to talk about a bad book. And thanks. Until then...
Don't fucking move my cheese.
I was going to say ride the crab, but make sure to first eat some delicious Cheddar Bay biscuits. Later.